welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty unique. We basically took 7 Bible verses.
And one from the Book of Enoch, too.
Right, and one from Enoch. And they were all picked totally at random, with a random number generator, spanning everything.
Yeah, it was wild. We had stuff about early kings, the New Testament church facing trouble, prophecy. I mean, the odds of these pieces fitting together seemed, close to 0.
It felt like trying to build a puzzle with pieces from different boxes. But amazingly, they did fit. The randomness just kind of melted away.
It really did. And what emerged wasn't just a theme, but a whole narrative. A story about God's people, his assembly.
A specific story. The establishment and preservation of God's covenant assembly amidst existential threats. That's what jumped out.
Exactly. And the first threat you see is external. Real physical danger from the outside.
Like in 1 Samuel 20. David, God's chosen king to be, tells Jonathan, there is but as a step between me and death.
Just one step. The Hebrew word peza to maweth. He's literally saying he's a footstep away from being killed. That's immediate danger to the leadership.
And that threat doesn't just disappear. Fast forward centuries to Acts 12.
King Herod goes after the early church, the ecclesia, the assembly. He laid hands on some to afflict them. It's the same pattern, isn't it? Worldly power trying to crush God's people.
Okay, so the threat is real, it's external. But then there's Numbers 24. Balaam?
Ah, yes. Balaam. He's hired specifically to curse Israel. Right. To bring them down using supernatural means.
But he can't.
He absolutely cannot. The text says God wouldn't listen, and Balaam ended up blessing them instead. No enchantments, no nojim could work against them.
So God's protection against outside attacks is like ironclad.
That seems to be the principle. God's sovereign blessing can't just be overturned by hostile powers or curses. The assembly is shielded externally.
But then, the verses take this sharp turn inward, don't they? If the external defense is so strong, why focus internally?
Well, that seems to be where the real vulnerability lies, according to these texts. Deuteronomy 13 introduces this pretty intense idea.
You mean cherem, the cursed thing.
Exactly. Cherem. It's this command. It's about total removal. If apostasy, if this deep spiritual corruption takes root within the community.
It has to be cut out.
Completely.
Surgically removed, like a cancer.
Yeah.
The text is stark, destroy the city, everything in it. It sounds radical, but the rationale given is preservation.
So internal purity becomes the condition for God's mercy. You have to deal with the internal rot for God to turn from the fierceness of his wrath.
That's the connection made. It's about maintaining the holiness required to remain in God's protective presence. You purge the cherem to receive the mercy.
And you mentioned the Book of Enoch earlier. How does that fit here?
Well, it's fascinating. Enoch describes the corruption brought by the Watchers, these fallen divine beings. That story provides a sort of ancient template for understanding why internal, almost cosmic-level corruption demands such a, cherem-like response. It frames the need for purging evil from the inside. Okay, so external threats are blocked. Internal threats require radical purity. What about moving forward? The mission.
That requires unity. Look at 2 Samuel 5. All the tribes come to David and say, "Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh."
That's language of family, of deep connection.
It's covenant kinship. That unity is foundational, and you see the result in Acts 12 again. It starts with persecution, right? Herod attacking.
Yeah, Peter's imprisoned.
But how does it end? Peter's freed, and Barnabas and Saul return from their mission, their diaconia, their service. And crucially, verse 24 says the word of God grew and multiplied.
So despite the attack, the mission pushes forward. The assembly grows.
Exactly. Persecution doesn't stop it. The internal unity and mission focus ensure it continues and expands.
Which leads to the final piece, Zephaniah 3, the end goal.
The ultimate promise. God says, "I will gather you. I will make you renowned and appraised among all the peoples of the earth." It's this divine gathering, this final restoration.
Wow. So these 7 completely random verses, plus Enoch, they actually map out this entire arc. Establishment, external threats deflected, internal threats purged, unity, mission, and final restoration.
The randomness dissolved. It became this coherent story across millennia. Preservation isn't passive. It's actively maintained through God's power, yes, but also through the assembly's purity, unity, and mission.
So we leave you with this thought. Think about that recurring need for purging internal corruption. We see it in the law and historical events, even echoed in texts like Enoch. How central, how utterly necessary is that internal vigilance presented as being for the survival and ultimate triumph of God's covenant people.